It wasn't the punch that knocked him off balance. It was the second one he didn't see, the one that cracked off the side of his jaw, turning the light above the cage into a strobing blur. Blood ran warm inside his mouth, and when he spat, it sprayed across the mat in an arc. Jason Statham hadn't worn gloves in 8 years, not since the last night they let him walk away. But now he was back, and this time it wasn't a choice. Across the cage, the younger man taunted. Muscles inflated with lab chemicals, chin high, bouncing on his heels. Around them, the underground gym erupted with chants, not for Jason Statham but for the illusion standing opposite him. Hype over history, ego over edge. No one recognized him when he first stepped into the place. They called him maintenance guy, said he was good with tools, quiet, weird. They didn't know his name. They didn't know his hands had once broken ribs without tape. 3 hours earlier, Jason Statham was tightening the bolts on a cracked vent panel above the boiler room. It was supposed to be a 10-minute job, seal, check, clear out. But then he heard the echo. A scream, not from pain but humiliation. He didn't rush down, he walked. The basement locker room reeked of blood and sour sweat. 2 younger fighters had pinned a newcomer against the wall, gloves still on. One was laughing. Jason Statham just looked at them, said nothing. They looked back, told him to stay in his lane. He didn't move. He only turned his head slightly, the way someone does when calculating distance. And that's when the coach stormed in, not to break it up, but to defend his prospects. The coach, Roman Dax, had swaggered over, barked orders, mocked the silence. Jason Statham had been walking out when Roman said it, that old men like him only show up to steal heat from real fighters, that if Jason Statham ever wanted to prove he belonged, there was still a cage upstairs. The gym had a tradition. You don't disrespect the ring unless you're ready to step into it, and Roman made sure everyone heard that. They set it for 8 p.m. Word spread fast, not because of who Jason Statham was, but because no one knew who he really was. And mystery sells better than truth in fight circles. By nightfall, the cage lights burned down onto red mats stained with history. Jason Statham stepped barefoot onto the canvas floor. He wore no fan gear, no fight shorts, just black track pants and wrapped hands. His chest had a long scar, the kind not earned in training, and his eyes, they looked like they'd already seen the worst a cage could offer. The crowd buzzed louder when the opponent walked in. Braden Ewell, undefeated, loud, hungry, chemically built. He flexed for the cameras, punched the cage wall. Jason Statham didn't blink. Roman stood on the side, grinning like a man setting fire to his own legacy for a quick pay-per-view check. The bell rang. The first minute was a test, jabs, footwork, measuring reach. Jason Statham didn't counter. He absorbed. Braden mocked him mid-fight, baited with taunts. Then it came, that second punch, quick, untelegraphed. Caught Jason Statham off-center, bloodied him, and something changed. Not in Jason Statham's eyes, but in his breathing. He stepped back. Then stepped forward again. Fast, close, tight. He pivoted, shoulder-checked, drove his elbow into Braden's rib just beneath the floating bone. It made no sound, but Braden froze. Then Jason Statham spun behind him. Rear choke, but loose. A message, not a finish. He let go. Just enough to let the cameras catch Braden's panic. Then circled again. The crowd didn't cheer now. They quieted. They started to realize this wasn't a fluke. Jason Statham didn't fight like someone trying to win. He fought like someone who'd already survived worse. On the sideline, Roman's grin disappeared. He began to whisper to his assistant. Too late. Jason Statham caught Braden's next swing midair, not blocked, caught, and what followed wasn't flashy. It was a simple pivot, a sweep, and a takedown that ended with Braden's body flat on the mat, breath heaving, blood on his chest, eyes wide. Jason Statham didn't finish him. He just stood up and walked to the corner. The ref stared, confused. Braden lay still. The crowd wasn't sure what to chant anymore, and that's when the voice came over the speaker. Roman's voice. He called it a lucky shot. Offered a rematch, but not with Braden, with himself. The cage door opened. Roman stepped in. No gloves, no rules, just old resentment. He'd known who Jason Statham was all along, and now the cameras were rolling. Jason Statham didn't react, not when Roman swung, not when the crowd screamed, not even when the first punch landed. He just stood there. Then he whispered something only Roman could hear, and Roman hesitated. Too long. Jason Statham moved one elbow, one knee, a silent twist, and Roman crumpled. Jason Statham walked out the cage while trainers rushed in. He didn't stay for the calls, the questions, or the silence that followed. He picked up his bag, walked back down the stairs, past the locker room, past the busted vent panel, and out into the night. He had work in the morning. The next morning, the video had already gone viral. It wasn't just fight fans, it was operators, ex-trainers, old names, people who hadn't said the name Jason Statham in years. In the grimy gym lobby, the regulars were still in denial, said it was CGI, said he'd been lucky, said Braden took a dive. But none of them went upstairs to the ring that morning, because the cage was still stained with what happened the night before, and no one wanted to stand in that history. Jason Statham clocked in at 7:04 a.m. He was in the boiler room by 7:11. No one talked to him. They just moved out of his way. Even Roman's assistant, who always gave him side jobs and dirty looks, stepped aside when Jason passed with a wrench in his hand. The scar down his ribcage was visible now. His shirt clung from sweat. No one asked what it was from, because now they were afraid of the answer. Upstairs, Roman hadn't come back, not to train, not to fight, not to explain. Some said he left town. Others whispered legal trouble. One guy said he saw him get picked up by two men in black suits near the bridge at dawn. No one cared, because Jason Statham was still here, and the silence said more than any headline. By noon, a car pulled into the alley behind the gym, matte black, no license plates. Jason didn't need to look to know what that meant. He wiped his hands on an old towel and walked out the back. Two men waited. Black jackets, neutral expressions, not cops but not street either. One handed him a small card, no words on it, just a symbol. Jason looked down at it, then handed it back, turned and walked away. They didn't follow. They didn't need to. Inside the gym, chaos was finally starting to settle, and that's when it began again. A new trainer arrived, name, Chase Morrow, accent polished, smile corporate. He said he was there to rebuild. But Jason recognized the way he stood, the way he scanned the room, the way his right hand always hovered near his side, like muscle memory from carrying a concealed holster. He wasn't here to coach. He was here to measure. That night, Jason stayed late, pretended to fix the broken HVAC, but he was really watching Chase. Chase didn't train anyone. He held meetings. He took notes. He asked too many questions about the old roster, especially about Roman, especially about Jason. Jason slipped out the side exit, took a long route home. Didn't go straight, didn't use the same corner. He knew the routine. And sure enough, a block from his place, he saw the same matte black car parked near the convenience store, engine off. Windows slightly cracked, waiting. He didn't stop. He didn't react. But the world around him began to shift. 3 days later, the gym announced a special event, invitation only, fight night, all proceeds for youth outreach. Posters went up with Braden's face, the same Braden who hadn't returned a call in 72 hours. Jason asked no questions. But the sign-up list was missing one name. His. He got the message. They didn't want a rematch. They wanted a show, a burial. The night of the fight came faster than expected. The parking lot overflowed. Cameras were mounted this time, real ones, broadcast crews, ring girls, sponsors. They turned a dirty underground gym into a live-stream cathedral. But none of them saw the trap, because this wasn't a promotion. This was a removal. Jason waited in the boiler room. He didn't prep, didn't tape his wrists. Just leaned against the rusted panel and listened to the sound of the crowd growing louder through the vents. And then something happened. The new trainer, Chase, walked in. He wasn't smiling. He had gloves on, not boxing gloves, latex, and in his hand a sealed envelope. He dropped it near Jason's foot, then left. Jason stared at it for a long time before picking it up. Inside, a photo, a file, and a list of names he hadn't heard in nearly a decade, all tied to one incident, the one that made him disappear. They didn't want to beat him in the ring. They wanted to force his past into the open. Let him win, sure, but expose what he'd done, what he left behind. They weren't after a fight, they were after the fighter. Jason walked upstairs. The crowd didn't even notice him. Too busy yelling for the opening match. Two rookies brawling for a fake title. He stood near the back, watching, waiting, breathing. And then a voice came over the mic, Chase, introducing a special guest, a legend of the underground. They described him like myth, then flashed his face on a giant screen, not Jason Statham as he looked now, but a shot from 9 years ago, shaved head, bloody, arms raised, surrounded by wreckage, his eyes wild, his smile unrecognizable. The crowd gasped, half of them turned to look. But Jason wasn't there anymore. He'd already moved to the edge of the cage, and without waiting for permission he stepped inside. No gloves, no entrance music, no sponsors, just resolve, and across from him, not Braden, but Chase, suit off, gloves on, smile gone. The real fight had just begun. There was no referee, no sponsors flashing lights, just one camera focused and a silence that held its breath. Jason Statham didn't move first. He didn't need to. Chase Morrow stepped forward, like a man with a score to settle. But there was hesitation in the way he bounced. A flicker of doubt behind his stance. Jason saw it, and so he gave him nothing, no expression, no guard, just that old, unreadable calm. Chase opened with a high elbow. Jason ducked under it without flinching, then tapped Chase's knee lightly with the side of his foot. Chase stumbled. Minor. But the audience noticed. Jason wasn't fighting, he was measuring. The next 3 moves were faster. Chase threw a right hook, then followed with a knee to the midsection. Both landed. Jason absorbed them. No counter. Just reset his footing, letting the blows echo off his ribcage like reminders. And then Jason Statham took his first step forward, just one. It changed everything. The crowd quieted again. You could hear the sound of Chase's gloves tightening. He didn't want to go backward, but he did. Jason followed. 2 steps now. Chase threw a low kick. Jason caught it with his heel and twisted. Chase fell hard, not flashy, not violent, just surgical. The audience started to murmur. This wasn't a fight anymore, it was a breakdown. Jason let him stand. Chase pushed up, wiping sweat with the back of his hand. He looked toward the camera crew. No help, no referee to stop it. Just Jason standing still, waiting. This time Chase rushed in. Jason sidestepped. One arm moved, elbow to the back. Chase crumpled. Jason didn't finish. He waited again. And then Chase said something. No one heard it, but Jason did. Whatever it was, it triggered the next move. Jason grabbed Chase's arm mid-sentence, twisted him into a shoulder lock and pushed him face first into the mat. Hard, flat, final. The entire crowd stood, no cheers, no claps, just silence. Jason stepped back. Not to gloat, not to raise his hands, he just walked out of the cage. No towel, no expression. Only the lights behind him flickering as he disappeared into the hallway. In the locker room, the lights were still buzzing. Jason stood over the sink, washing his hands. Not his face, just his hands behind him. Chase staggered in, one eye already swelling. Jason turned, and Chase reached into his jacket. Jason didn't move. But Chase didn't pull a weapon. He pulled out a folded piece of paper, placed it on the bench, then walked away. Jason opened it. A photo of Roman. But not just him, the whole group from back then. The underground circuit, their family, and scrawled across the back in handwriting Jason hadn't seen in years. He's not dead. He's rebuilding, and he's looking for you. Jason folded the photo carefully. Then, finally, he exhaled. That sound was more human than anything he'd made all night. Outside the gym, the street was dark. But a man was waiting by the black car again. Not one of the earlier agents. This one had scars and history. Jason walked straight up to him. No words exchanged, just a look. Recognition. Then the man opened the back door of the car. Jason stepped in. The car rolled away. The gym crowd spilled out an hour later, still talking about what they'd seen. Some said it was staged. Others called it revenge. A few said it was a message, but only Chase knew the truth. That the man they brought out of hiding wasn't someone they could ever put back. In a surveillance room 2 states away, Roman watched the footage replay. Over and over, he didn't blink, didn't speak. He just leaned back in his chair and whispered a single name to the ceiling. Because the game had started again, and Jason Statham, the man they forced back into the ring, wasn't done yet.